Hey guys, and welcome to another Destiny Council video. And today I am joined by Andrew. We're going to do another interview.
Hey guys, what's going on?
We'll once again be talking about the Wisconsin Regional. So you, uh, unlike Will and Brian, I get the impression that you knew what you were playing for more than like a day.
I did, yeah. I was playing Poe Hondo for a bit. Like, I was playing it actually the week before the news dropped, and I was like, I guess it's a good deck, sweet. I don't need to do as much testing. So,
The
yeah,
news,
it's
of
kind of hype.
course, being the victory, the first Poe Hondo to win a regional.
Yep.
It was kind of sad for Will and Andrew, who had been talking about Pondo, like, hey, this deck might be good. And they're like, all like, this is a secret deck, guys.
Yeah,
And
and
then
then
it
everyone's like,
wins.
it's the new Power Ray, it's everywhere, it's gonna like wreck everything, it's gonna oppress the meta. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in any case, you had the unfortunate job of being the punching bag of Hero Mill
True
for Will and
story.
Brian.
Yes.
So, did that give you any second thoughts as you're going to the tournament?
Oh gosh. So I had a bit of salt playing against Hero Mill because that deck can be pretty oppressive at times.
Mhm.
But we played probably like 10 to 15 matches, and each match takes about 20 minutes on a bad day. So I was like, oh my gosh, doing so much damage. Not really, because they shield up and heal up and everything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, second thoughts wise, I was considering playing Mill because I knew it was probably the better of the two decks.
Mhm.
But I just like Poe Hondo, and I had some colorful add ons in the
Mhm.
deck.
We'll certainly get to those later on.
Yeah, for sure. But I was pretty tempted to deck specifically for that matchup, but I held off and just decked for probably what the majority of the crowd was going to be running.
Right,
Which is
right.
damage.
I mean, even with Hero Mel getting second at that one of those early regionals, Poe Hondo getting first, like first just gets noticed more. It just
Yeah.
is how it is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, talking about the spicy tech, I agree with you. I think that you had a lot of good choices,
Yeah.
especially for Poe Hondo, or even just the special meta,
Yeah.
as you could call it, the non-damage meta. So specifically, Rebel Assault is, in my mind, a great choice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about the card?
Yeah, I'll talk a bit about some of the cards I had. Rebel Assault is one where it says spot a range die and remove a die not showing damage. So if you're in the Poe Hondo mirror, it costs 0. So you can like pull a Hondo special turn 1, which is huge, or just a disrupt or any kind of special out there. It worked really well throughout the day. Did it on late post, did it on like Poe even, post blaster. It's really versatile card and it turns on so early. I think that's the major strength of it. Um,
Yeah, and the applications of it are certainly endless. I mean,
yeah.
even coming to the end of a turn and the mirror match where you're on throne room, that cunning sitting on a resource, and
Yeah.
you know he's gonna claim for it. You're just like
Rebel
Rebel Assault.
Assault, and then they're like, oh shoot, I'm not doing 3 damage anymore. Yeah.
And as we've progressed throughout the course of the many sets that have been released, um, removal has moved from being 1 for a die is just not good enough.
Yeah, I mean,
But having the 0 for a die is great. That's
it's quite
certainly
good still, yeah.
above the curve.
Yeah, and I think like you see that a lot. Like easy pickings turn 1, you'll do that over playing an upgrade just because it's that good. But if you're like say electroshocking, it's just not worth it at that point. It was kind of fun. Like a lot of the cards I'm playing, people haven't seen before, so they're like, "Wait, what does that say?" And I'm just like, "Here." I probably did it like 30 times throughout the day. Yeah, there's nothing like playing a deck that everybody knows, but all the cards in it are just like, what does that do?
Yeah, so just to highlight a couple more of them, I really, to talk about just the above the curve removal, you have easy pickings, which is a no brainer.
Yeah,
But you were also, I believe, running 2 defensive positions.
Yep, I think it's pretty common in that deck.
And
it's pretty blowout removal.
Yep, pretty crazy. So that's 4 1 cost for 2 or more dice usually. You have the actually 4 0 cost removal for 1 dice in the hasty exit and the rebel assault. I'm not sure if you're running 2 hasty exits or not.
I was running 1, and I was running a loft bet, just kind of like hedge my bets in case I didn't have the battlefield. Just keeping a character outside of the death zone when you potentially get a second chance coming, or defensive position or claim early type thing. So
yeah, and then you get the
versatility.
The spiciest card, perhaps, the good old
emergency evacuation.
That card
oh my gosh,
seemed so bad and yet so good.
I mean, the effect is so powerful. I looked at it and I was like, man, that could be so amazing if you just had the money to pay for it. And guess what Hondo does? He makes buttloads of money. Like, I was swimming in cash all day, and there were several matchups where it's like, if I get 2 resources here and I draw emergency evac, next turn I'll have 4 and I'll just be set to wipe out my opponent.
So for anyone who doesn't know, emergency evac literally just reads remove all dice.
It's all. So
No.
it removes your dice, removes your opponent dice, anything in the pool just goes away. Yeah.
And in our current meta, that's pretty good. It's a little bit weaker against vehicle decks, although some of them will end up rolling out a ton of vehicles and then re-rolling. I know rainbow fly, as we call it. The
Yeah.
3
'Cause
wide.
It's rainbow and it's
Ray,
yeah.
Or not Ray. Ezra, Ayla, and Rose.
Yeah.
So that deck tends to get out more support dice than some others. But despite that, most of the meta is upgrade heavy, and when you get into late game, they're rolling out their last remaining character with their 3 upgrades, and that's all they have to deal damage that turn. And being able to just be like, nope.
Just remove all dice, and then you like pretty much get ahead on that turn quite a bit. Yeah, I ran into a couple Obi Mazas throughout the day, and some of them were really close matches, but that card was so key and just like wiping all of Obi's dice. Yeah, it really puts you back in the door, and it kind of like gives you a whole turn to catch back up or whatever is going on in that game. You can kind of fix it.
In some ways, it's like a better hyperspace jump. Like hyperspace jump is just like the end the turn, like, oh, you rolled really well, just boom, let's reset. Emergency evac is that same thing, only you're not done. You get to roll out your characters.
Exactly, and like I think the biggest thing about the 2 is hyperspace jump requires you to be extremely fast. And if you're playing a fast deck, you simply can't play it. Whereas this card, if they're faster than you, their dice are in pool before yours, and you can just kind of be like, cool, well, wipe them all out, and now I get to do my turn with no caveat of you having to be quick.
And it still has that hyperspace effect where if you're playing a slow deck like vehicles, you roll out, you're doing your stuff, maybe you resolve all of your dice, including some Hondo specials to get some resources, and then all of a sudden you're sitting on 4 and they're like, oh, you have 3 vehicle dice and like 4 character dice in the pool? Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
So definitely not saying this card belongs in every deck, but Hondo tends to be flush with resources, especially.
It really is, yeah.
Especially when your opponent goes for Poe first. Towards late game, they're just like they just keep shoveling you resources because they don't want you to deal damage, and you need ways to then win
like
with
Scrooge
them.
McDuck, like swimming in cash. And
So going into Saturday, did you have any like last minute deck changes?
Ooh.
How early did you like finalize your deck list?
Yeah, so there's like one card I was waffling back and forth on. It's called Collateral Damage, and basically says resolve any number of ranged or melee dice, disrupting 1. That was a card that I wasn't sure was high enough impact to like make the cut. I was like, cool, people will know what it is, but I was like, is this actually good enough? I gotta say, against like characters with 3-for-1s or 2-for-1s, it feels really good because oftentimes it's removal and at the same time dealing damage for you. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1 effect. And it's also 0 cost, so you can play it early. There was one game where I ambush blastered, rolled out, dictated binds, and I resolved for 1 to like disrupt them. And so that kind of effect can definitely be really strong. I think if the mill matchup gets really strong going forward, I would consider Vandalize or even Scruffy Nerf Herder, just because hitting that fallback or hyperspace jump, or ensuring they don't have removal for the turn can be so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the whatever collateral damage, I can definitely see where it's also another one of those cards that's unexpected.
Yeah.
So you go out there and instead of rolling maybe Hondo first, you roll out Poe first because you have a cunning, and your opponent's like, oh, he doesn't have any disrupt. I can take a different action. And then they don't spend their 2 resources. I could see that just being devastating to get that turn 1 disrupt before the 2-drop comes out.
Exactly. And like putting people out of range of a weapon or removal, even just like forcing them to choose between removing Hondo dice or playing their 1 cast removal for the turn is really effective. And I find it dealt 3 damage quite a bit of the time as well. Just getting Hondo in range with a special. Maybe they have 3 resources, you resolve that, and you resolve a 2 disrupt on Hondo. All of a sudden you're dealing 3 damage when you otherwise would not have been dealing any damage that turn.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So yeah, getting back into Saturday, then you come in and did you have a first round bye?
Nope.
You'd already used yours.
Yeah.
Right?
So funny story. Pretty much the entire few days before, I was like, "Hey guys, you should play the Poe Hondo mirror match with me," because I haven't played much of that. They're like, "Cool, yeah, that sounds good." Well, I didn't play the Poe Hondo mirror match at all, like the entire time leading up to it. But thankfully, I played Boba Phasma, which Luke was playing, and that match is holy fast. Like characters die turn 1 fairly often because you're so squished and you're dealing so much damage. So that matchup was pretty fun. But yeah, it prepped me for my round 1 opponent, which is Poe Hondo. Oh my gosh, I did not have any experience against that.
You were teched for it though.
I was teched.
Rebel Assault,
Yeah.
so good into
I think
all
I
those
Rebel
specials.
Assaulted him turn 1. He was like, what? I'm like, yes. My tech is paying off already. So.
Did you emergency evac him?
I don't think I did. I think I got a bit far ahead on that matchup. Emergency evac is a bit harder in the mirror because you're both paying each other
disrupting
off
each
the entire
other.
time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but definitely like it feels good if you kill Hondo first to be able to emergency evac Poe. So it's kind of like
nice.
Good. Yeah.
So you come in round 1, you win.
I got the win. Yes.
Any other like highlights in the next couple rounds?
Let's see. Not really too many. Yeah.
Anything?
There's like more Poe Hondos. Like the match I was supposed to test for, it hadn't. So, yep. I played like 4. My friends who've been playing against my deck all the time didn't actually play any Poe Hondos the entire day, except for me in like the top 8. But that's a different story. So
interesting. So they who got all the practice against the Poe Hondos see no Poe Hondos.
Yeah.
You who only ever played as Poe Hondo see all the Poe Hondos.
Yeah. Okay, so I actually highlight back. Thrawn Talzin was a deck that I played, and I was like, cool, this deck, most people would run into that would be like, no, this deck isn't good, right? So Brian had been almost running this deck because he really liked playing it. It's just like very mind gamey, like Thrawn looking at your opponent's hand, like calling removal, trying to figure out what they have. Do you call weapons? Do you call defense? So I was running into this, and I played Brian like probably 20 times because he was like, yes, I really like this deck. And I'm like, this deck is not going to be useful for me at all in this Swiss at all. And I was like, dang. So I actually played it. I was like, yes, I'm going to play this matchup. And my opponent was just like, yeah, I'm playing this deck. And I'm like, yeah, this is a sweet deck. It's actually really good too, I think. And he's like, yep, I like it a lot. I like Tron. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, definitely. If I had been able to go, it would have been Thrawn Talzin. It is my deck of choice right now. I don't think it's like OP.
No,
I think it's
just
in
a
the
really
tier
fun deck.
Tier 1, Tier 1.5 category. It can beat some of the Tier 1 decks really easily. I mean, it has, awkwardly enough, it's decent into Hero Mill because it can hit all of their important cards.
Yeah.
But,
do you want to run through some of the facets? Because, like, there's a ton of healing in that deck.
Well, let's just say, when I played Andrew in a casual tournament, him playing Poe Hondo, me playing Thrawn Talzin, he dealt like 20 damage to my Talzin, and she didn't die. That rose again, like,
wasn't that the game where you double chance cubed round 1? I was like, sitting there looking at Hondo, like, you're gonna be useless this game. Please ramp for me. Like,
yeah, so double Wish Magic, Force Illusion, and Rise Again are pretty good.
Yeah, I think you did at least 2 of those.
In any case, so you run into Thrawn Talzin, and you're just like,
I was like, yes, I know this matchup works.
I'm ready for this, and this poor innocent human being had to face the unlucky opponent.
Yeah, oddly enough, I think that was one of my 2 closest matches throughout the day. It actually went to time. We finished it out in the last round of time, but I was like, sweet, I pretty much have tiebreakers on him. I just need to deal 3 damage. He was sitting at 8 HP. And then he Witch Magics to heal 3, push him to 8 health. And I'm sitting at 2 HP with 2 second chances. Like, I can't second chance here. Because then I offer one of my 3 weapons with Hondo, and I can't deal enough damage to break tiebreakers. So I believe I played an X8. I was thinking about running an interference scene, but I was pretty sure it was out of removal. And I couldn't have him activate because I needed the extra reroll to get killing damage. And I had like X8s on him, so I was like, I can manipulate my X8 here. If he doesn't have removal, I'll just win. So I proc interference on activation, roll out, and roll the 7 damage for the kill, and he's like, don't have removal. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and
so that was freaking close, man. Let me tell you.
For anyone who doesn't know, the reason why Andrew can know that he probably doesn't have removal is that
I played that deck a lot,
and there's very limited options for just Thrawn. So
yeah.
a lot of the removal is spotted blue, which doesn't end up being a drawback because Talzin can be kept alive so effectively with some of the cards.
Also, it's such a long game that he decked himself, so it either required deck or it would probably like best defense was one of his few options left.
So you pull that one out.
I did, yeah. That was a close one.
You pull out many more wins. What did you end up? What was your record?
I was 6-2, and I happened to know that 2 of my opponents had dropped after I played them. So I was like, pretty sure I'm out of this. And that was a bit worrisome. But then my seven opponent, the guy I lost to, managed to win his last match. And I was like, yeah. He's like, by the way, I won this. And I'm like, sweet man, that's awesome. So he was like really friendly and
Nice.
really chill.
So what decks did you lose to?
I lost to Poe Hondo Mirror. Thanks, guys. It was actually really close. I didn't draw my second chance or my emergency evac. I think I could have come back with either of those. Um, yeah, it was like Hondo with 3 guns versus Poe with Poe's blaster. I was like, he rolls a 2 here. I can defensive position the Poe's blaster, and he won't be able to claim. He did not roll a 2. It was the most like anticlimactic ending to a game ever. Like he rolls out, he doesn't roll a 2. I'm just like, roll out. He's like claimed. I'm like, cool. Yeah, so it was a good game, but
yeah.
And then my another really close match was against my top 8 opponent. He was running Obi-Wan Maz. And that deck, man, if you don't kill Obi fast, that deck just gets wheels and starts chugging like through. Um, that match was really close. Came down to like 7 cards, and I was drawing through, and I was like, dump everything from my emergency evac, and I did not draw it. I was like, ah. So he got me on that one, but it was a close game, and yeah, we met again in the top 8.
So you snuck in, I believe, at 8th, right?
I did,
you
yeah.
were the last person to make it in the cut.
To be fair, I had like 0.05 higher than the next guy, but it was pretty close. Yeah.
So that's always a scary position to be at, but you managed to make it. So
yep. I celebrated a little early. They called out like the 9th place person. I was like, yes. I was like, wait, it's feels fun.
So you go into
like announcing who was in top 8.
But... So you go into your round of 8, and you're gonna be playing Obi Maz. I don't know enough about the matchup. I think that you'd have certain advantages in the matchup because emergency evac can wreck the 5 dice that they're gonna have at the end of the game.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you feel about it? Do you think it favors you, or is that consistent like?
It's relatively swingy, I think. I think emergency evac is actually really key for the matchup, or maybe hyperspace jump if you're playing a fast version. Just because like my opponent was ramping really fast. Like I was emergency evacuating 5 dice typically, and the key played like a really strong Obi Mas, just like get like double lipo down, Obi Saber, and yeah. So like round 1, I rolled super hot and like killed Obi like 2 or 3, which was super fortunate. But then like game 2 got really sticky, and like towards the end, I think I had Poe left with like 4 HP, and it was kind of like this back and forth, like, oh my goodness, if he rolls well enough on Maz, I just lose here, like. So then I think I rolled in and blocked activation with running interference to prevent the Maz kill.
Which actually, we should talk about this a little bit. Running interference is a card that not every Poe Hondo runs.
Right. And the reason why, I think the reason why is because they're not running a lot of ambush weapons. Mine's actually got a gun suite, which is really effective for Hondo closing out. A lot of times you'll see a Hondo with like double cunning and like I don't know, maybe a deal 44 trying to close the game. And that's just straight up hard to do because typically your opponents will overwrite special cards or you just be relying on your Hondo special. And that's just not good math. So yeah, mine relies on suiting up with guns, kind of like the old Han Ray style, where if Han dies early, you'll have Ray trying to close out with like double deal 44 hold on blaster. And like anybody who's played that deck knows that you don't really need gun size to deal damage. Like you just deal damage with like triple solid guns. So yeah, I really try to get like X8s on Hondo and close that way, and yeah, it's been quite effective.
And for those, just to make it clear, the reason why ambush weapons are great with running interference is you can play the ambush weapon, proccing the running interference on playing a card, and then activate immediately.
Yeah.
And that means that they can't remove. So if Andrew lucks out,
if I roll super hot, I'm just gonna win, as opposed to like they might have removal here. Right? It kind of takes like the odds out and just gives you that edge.
Yeah. So definitely. Definitely great you pointing out there that it did win you a game, being able to shut off the Maz activation.
Yeah, and there's several times where it like turns off removal for your opponents just because they can't play cards. So
I will say I find it a little bit interesting that you would go for Obi first. Now, admittedly, I don't play Poe Hondo. I haven't played that matchup, but what I've always found is that decks that have lots of really effective control want to kill Maz because the late game is so frustrating when Maz has 3 redeployed upgrades and she just activates and just kills you.
Maz is definitely a scary late game too, yeah.
Whereas OB rolling out, there's like no cheat options for them unless somebody tries to run in partnership or something, right? So OB rolls out, and especially against like your deck with like defensive positions and easy pickings and emergency evac, I could see OB being much easier to control in late game. You want to talk a little bit, maybe give some counterpoints to that?
Yeah, it's kind of like the old one defensive character, one support character aspect, where you have like that Hanrei, then Qui-Gon Kanan, all these other like shielded, super shielded characters, so on and so forth. It's really just the idea of if you go for Obi first, he doesn't really have time to build up. They might not have time to draw their cautions. They might not have time to play their fort solutions. You're kind of like rushing him and hoping that they don't draw defensive cards. Typically, I do it when I have enough damage where I can put them to a critical point, where I'll be able to chip enough through over time that I'll be able to take them out relatively comfortably. So game 1 was definitely an aspect of that where I just rolled the nuts. So I dealt like 9 damage turn 1, put him to 6 HP, and felt pretty happy. Of course, he cashed into the next turn, but he was really at that critical point where he would have to play a bit defensively, and I could play aggressively because his character was kind of on the edge. If you can deal a ton of damage turn 1, I think I would consider doing it. If you're also aware that you can control them for the rest of the game, probably, if you get at lead. So kind of like cutting on to that, if they have to play defensively and you can play offensively, all of a sudden it's easier to remove them. They're a bit more likely to get tilted when you remove their dice and so on and so forth. There's like just these extra factors that come into play. So the risk, of course, of going after a big character though is if they do shield up and do get past that breaking point, then they have 2 characters that you're fighting. And playing against 2 characters is much harder to play against than 1, and typically a support character is great at enabling a big character to succeed. Yeah, 1 Ataru Strike, 1 what is it, the double resolve? My ally is the force, and yeah, you're just out of it. And that's actually part of why I went for Obi first, is because I was just worried about that my ally is the force potential, right? Like you have a character at 5, you don't really have any options with Poe. Like if he gets killed, then you're relying on Hondo to close against an Obi-Wan. If they've stacked up resources, then you're just kind of in trouble. Whereas they'll probably be able to close against Maz. But some insight into my mind right there. But yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. Yeah. I know I personally have been playing a lot of control decks, so I hate to like let Maz end. But definitely. I mean, I think that one thing to keep in mind as throughout with any deck against any deck is that targets are fluid. I mean, they change from game to game.
Yeah, for sure.
If they get starting shields and they're just like 2 starting shields on Obi and you're playing Poe Hondo and you're like, well, I can probably easily deal 8 damage to Maz this turn. It's probably more effective to kill the Maz.
If you can kill Maz early enough, for sure, go for it,
right? Right, but if they take 2 starting shields and they toss them on Maz, then it's like, well, I'll go for Obi because there's not much HP difference there.
Yeah, it's all about that HP difference and it's like target selection.
Even things like you deal 3 to Obi and they're like Force Illusion, you're like, well, maybe I switch targets. It's hard. It's hard to know. It's hard to say. Just this is the right way.
One thing that I like to think of is if somebody would run impersonate in their deck, you should probably go for their main character, like the card where they can move damage over to their like supporting character. I think it costs 2 or whatever. I played a lot in Sabine back in the day with Sabine Akbar, but yeah, just kind of like that feel. And like I think Obi Maz is on the edge where you would actually consider that card. So I was like, maybe just go Obi first.
Well, I'm the crazy person. For whatever reason, I find myself going for support characters time and time again.
I mean, it's definitely a safer method. I think there's a bit more like in between there, and you can play to your outs a bit more. It feels like more a deck versus deck battle, but you really got to pray that they don't roll hot and when you don't have removal, because it might just be the end right there.
Yep. Yeah. Well, so you won your round of 8, and you go on to play Brian, who had just beat Will, right? So it's kind of sad. All 3 of you ended up on the same side of the bracket.
Oh gosh, yeah. I played enough against Brian's deck to know that my odds were not super great. I think I had like 40% win rate against his deck. Yeah. And he had improved it against my deck, so we were like, how do we make this beat Poe Hondo? Unwisely helped him deck. Although he would say that, yeah. He also helped a lot in that too. So it was like kind of like a community effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that match was like, shoot, got to play my hardest here. Got to put my heart out. Should have teched, like vandalize and all those other things,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So starting round one, basically Brian and I had played a lot of this matchup, and I was pretty nervous about it. And then round one, I discarded a fall back, and I was just like, yes. Because if you don't know, this matchup, fall back is the center point. Like C3PO helps them close, but fall back is what like puts the nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, I can ramp out like 5 upgrades by the end of the game, and if I have that final turn with 5 upgrades, then I'm set. And so I discarded fall back, and I was like, all in, baby. Like, if he doesn't draw his next fall back in time, I'm just gonna win this game. So became like some pretty tight and intense maneuvers. I went for Riken first because I like had gone for Jetta Partisan. He got like
Mm-hmm.
3 shields, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
let's do some HP damage. Kind of like push him out of that shield wall. Protective Mentor can be so brutal if you don't have HP damage down already. And I was pretty worried about that was coming around that time when he would get it
Mm-hmm.
up. So bursted down Riken actually pretty quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and then started going after Yoda because he had like double chance cube scout or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, we're like into it, and at some point I have like 10 damage on table, and he fall back. So I was like, shoot. So like all my upgrades are gone except for an X8. So at this point I kill Yoda, and Partisan is sitting there with like 2 shields, and I'm like, okay, I just need to roll well to get back into this.
Mm-hmm.
I think during this game there's actually a moment where he rolled in Yoda with double chance cube, and I resolved. I had 3 resources. I resolved a Hondo special against Yoda, and he was like, sure, and proctor interference on resolving dice, so he couldn't resolve his chance cube for 3 resources. So then he rolls out C3PO, and I emergency evac to dump all his stuff.
Wow.
So the biggest part of this is that he had disrupted himself down to 0 with it, like putting all his bets on the chance cubes,
Mm-hmm.
and he was no longer gaining scrap because I was out of deck. So at this point, I'm just like, yes, I can come back into this, and this is like the final round.
Mm-hmm.
So I got like another additional couple damage on Partisan, and put him down to 6 remaining health, and I'm going to the next round. It's like, all right, I can do this. So going to the next round, I have friends in low places, and I roll up. I'm like, do I play this card and just like bet on my rolls, or do I roll out and hope I roll well? So I don't play the friends in low places. Roll up Poe, and he easy pickings my 2 specials on Poe, and I'm just like,
Oof.
oh my
Ouch.
gosh, I need to deal like 6 damage here. Well, I have an X8, so I'm like, okay, I can do flip that. For roll well enough on Hondo, he has 1 resource left, so it's actually fairly likely that I can deal the damage.
Mm-hmm.
So I roll out Hondo, roll double disrupt special, and I have like X8 like +2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, how do I like? I'm just thinking through like all the possible ways I could do this. So if I disrupt him, then he plays a hunker down. I'm just like, I need to deal 6 damage there. So I'm
Right.
like, if I had an impulsive in my hand right now, I'd actually win this game because I had impulsive the Honda special,
Mm-hmm.
and then flip the X8 to the 3 and proc run interference on card action. So I was actually like 1 action behind. If he had played the hunker down just a bit later, or if I'd had like an impulsive in my hand, I would have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
But
But
close match.
that one
One
hunker
one
down
HP.
shield
Yeah, like so
saved him.
clutch. Yeah. So it was a
Wow.
1 HP match, and of course he rolled in C3PO and
Did
Jetta
all that.
and milled me out. So
Mm.
dang.
How about round 2?
Round 2 was not close. I think
Yeah.
he milled both my X8s. He discarded an X8 from my hand round 1, milled the other one round 2, and I was like,
Game over.
unlucky. Yeah.
Because X8 is really consistent for a mill matchup because you don't even have to re-roll it if you want that damage.
It's so consistent for Hondo, period. And yeah, like in a mill matchup, you have tons of money and you're just like flip to the 3 side. Makes it really easy to dodge easy pickings, to bait out garbage shoots, and all that other stuff. So
Well,
good
good
games
job
though.
anyways. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't really complain about losing to a
I almost
teammate.
beat his tech like super mass monstrosity. So yeah,
I mean,
full good.
I'm just dreaming of the day where we can show up at a tournament, make top 8, and avoid each other. Like last time we went to regional,
Right?
in the first round, 4 of us made top 8.
We both played.
Both of us
Yeah, both
played
players.
mirror matchups against teammates.
Yeah.
So we automatically round 1 eliminated 2 of us. I was just like,
yeah.
why? And now this one, you have Will and Brian face off round
Brian
1.
just like eliminated
Brian
2 of us
and
all the
Andrew
way to the
face off round
finals.
2. I mean, Brian though, I mean, kudos to him. He goes top 8. He goes, beats Will, beats you, then beats Taxter.
That's true. That's a pretty rough gauntlet,
Yeah. pretty
So
pretty good results.
good results by him. Yeah.
So yeah, you got your hands on the little Braun alt art. I love that card. You can play Thralls in now.
I am actually. Yeah. I'm like, okay. What
Now's the
cards do I
time.
need for this? Yeah.
Now that I
Maybe
have
break
this
out the
card,
Force Lightnings. Yep.
nice.
Force Lightning Tron seems cool.
Hmm.
So.
So before we start to wrap up, do you have any advice you want to give Poe Hondo players? Like first, I'd say, where do you put this deck? Is it tier 1.5, tier 1? Is
I
it on
think
the bottom of tier 1? You know.
I think it's actually tier one. I think it has to be played right, and I think the version wasn't like tacked quite as well for the current meta as the
Mm-hmm.
current version I'm running is. I think running interference is a must. I think running the gun suite and actually getting Poe to or Hondo, whichever character is closing to the late game state with 3 weapons is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, like conserving resources. I'm running Hold Off Blaster just for like the replay aspect,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's something that would be good to tech.
Mm-hmm.
Impulsive is like the best card ever. If I could run 4 of that card, I probably would. Yeah,
Impulsive being the ambush resolve to die.
ambush resolve dice. Kind of
So
like
good
embedding
with
it all in. Yeah.
so good with that double focus.
Yep.
So good with just having a special and a like 2 range.
Yeah,
Sitting out
it's
there.
just a really good deck in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think people can adapt to it, but I think it can adapt back, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where some of the cool dynamic comes from, like a tier
Mm-hmm.
one deck that I think it can be. I don't think it's necessarily an impressive deck,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it can be if you're playing somebody who's newer or doesn't understand all the ins and outs of it. But I think that's the nature of tier one. If your deck is strong enough and you're playing it well enough, then you'll naturally
Yeah.
crush your opponents.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's sitting there in tier 1. I certainly don't think it's like the top of tier 1. You know, it's like the average tier 1 deck. It's got
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
got its
even like
downsides.
what is it, Obi Maz? Like that deck was really good, and
Mm-hmm.
it felt pretty close in a couple matches. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, I put, like Poe Hondo, it has its weaknesses. It has the low HP,
Yeah, it's
but it
definitely
has
playing
the
on the edge.
really high early damage.
Or
It
just
has
ramps insanely fast, which
right.
is quite
It
cool.
has the great the resource. What it does with resources throughout the game, where it's both giving you a higher resource curve than normal and giving your opponent a much lower resource curve than they're used to playing with, which is a big deal because like most decks, you ideally live in a world where you are spending all of your resources every turn and playing all your cards, right? Where you have this perfect resource curve, where you're just able to pay for everything, and as people play, they get closer and closer to that perfect resource curve. Then Poe Hondo comes in here, and Hondo's just like, say goodbye to your pretty little
Like,
resource
yeah,
curve, right?
it's mine now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So
basically you
I
just kind of
think
have to like get that early kill off, and
mm-hmm,
you
I
have a point
really
where you can close against Hondo.
I really think that like that resource control is what keeps it in tier 1,
Yeah,
regardless of what's going on. Just the ability to mess around with what decks want to do.
I really do like it as a playstyle too. I think it really changes up what we've seen so far. Typically decks just deal damage or they don't, or they mill you or they don't, and this one's like, so those resources though, are you willing to pay me to remove a 3 damage die?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an interesting aspect, and I'm really excited for the future of the game because I think there's some interesting like how do you play this, like what's going on here, and there's not always a clear answer, but I think that's a really cool facet of the deck itself. So
Yeah. Well, do you have any final thoughts on Poe Hondo?
it's a fun deck. If you want to try my version, I'll be getting a deck tech up at some point here soon, and yeah, emergency evac. It feels pretty sweet.
Nice.
I'm sure you'll see some flipped tables on TTS in the near future when that happens, but.
Or
yeah.
some. Can I read that cards?
Exactly,
They're hovering
yeah.
their
Just like
little
let me flip
mouse
that
cursor.
around a little bit. Yeah, the deck is fun, and yeah, I think there's a lot of other good decks out there too that hold a candle. So.
Well, before we go, bonus question, because you are a resident Hondo player.
Okay.
My brother actually recently ran this deck. I want to get your early thoughts on it. So, Hondo FN 2199. Because that deck does the same thing where it's really
sounds pretty spicy. Yeah.
It's really you have the 11 HP character together with the Hondo. Now you certainly lose second chance. You lose easy pickings. That's really rough for control wise.
Right.
But you gain salvage stand, which with FN, like yes, you have no resource sides on Hondo himself, but FN is rolling out these upgrades twice in a turn and rolling out his own dice with resources. That deck is really annoying to play against. When you give when they Hondo especially, when you handed them a resource, they're like, oh, well now I'll drop a Riot Baton on FN, roll it out, resolve it twice this turn.
That's not good, yeah.
What are your initial thoughts on?
I think it would suffer potentially in a Hondo mirror match, just because it lacks a bit of the removal, like easy pickings, defensive position. You do gain like best defense and stuff like that, which can be decent. The disrupt back and forth could be kind of harmful to FN, but I think if you got in a group with it, I guess non-Hondo decks though, I could see it being pretty solid. I definitely something I want to try. I mean, sounds kind of exciting, just getting money or dealing threes and like
Salvage stand,
thing,
remove
right?
all their resources.
Yeah.
Even toss in Imperial Inspections if you want to.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
So yeah,
Sounds
I
like
was impressed by the early impressions of the deck. So you heard it from Andrew. He's predicting it will be the new tier 0 deck.
I'm just kidding. We'll see.
Just kidding.
I'm excited to try it.
I think it's a little bit more aggro personally than the.
It does seem really fast.
The Poe version. Poe deals some damage, but FN is rolling these. If it gets a single resource turn one and it's able to drop 3 drops, it can roll a Riot Baton twice in a turn. It can roll, so it can go hold out, roll it out, resolve it, then play Riot Baton, roll it out, resolve it, and then roll out FN again and resolve that Riot Baton again. And all that extra dice out there, especially combined with the Hondo threes, is just like so overwhelming. And then late game, they have Occupation, which is a 2-cost event that just removes all of your opponent's resources. So you go for FN, all these weapons redeploy to Hondo, and then he's just like, buy all your resources. Hondo now has 3 sides.
Or just get like double rocket launchers on him because they're good with FN too.
Yeah. Ooh. Or Vibro Cutlass.
Yeah, that does sound good too. I think there's a lot of options for the deck, so
yeah,
it sounds pretty fun.
In any case, guys, thank you for watching us. If you would like to, feel free to check out our website. We'll post a link in the comments below. You can see our other videos as well. We interviewed Brian and Will earlier. They also wrote a deck tech and an article and all this other jazz. So yeah, let us know.
That was a pretty funny article, I gotta say. I chuckled a few times. I haven't seen it until it got published. So
best line is when they're talking about their mirror. Oh, okay.
Gotta save it for the article, right?
Nah, fine. I'll do it. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, peace.